Greetings YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another shorty. I'm just doing this before I upload this to go to work. I'll see if I can get into this kind of habit. Next day off I'm going to crank out a couple of decent sized videos for you guys out there, so I'm sorry that this is taking so long. Tesubo asked a really interesting question with regards to fantasy metals, and I do have an example, although it is also an example of plagiarism. And as a GM, I do highly recommend plagiarism. If you can't think of an original idea, there's no harm in taking somebody else's and then adapting it and tweaking it and doing things like that. So that's something you can do. And back when I was running a campaign from 1st to 20th level in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 before Pathfinder hit the scene, the group had to go and find something called Fel-Steel. Now, I think Fel-Steel does exist in the Burning Crusade, and I think the Burning Crusade was out at the time, so that's where it came from. And if I want to get technical, in my campaign, Fel-Steel is actually Fel-Iron, because what it is basically is the iron ore within an area where there is an incursion or an overlap from the material plane to one of the lower planes. And in this particular campaign, it was based around an old dwarven hold. Now, the fantasy archetype of dwarves and dwarven holds having fallen from grace is nothing new. However, in the campaign I was writing, this particular hold anyway, was due to a demon incursion because, you know what, the final details escape me. I don't know if it was actually somebody within the hold that did it or somebody without. But the long and short of it is, all the dwarves are dead. The whole place is populated by like a dwarven demon hybrid, or demons in general, and the whole place is a bit hellish, really, in terms of the actual landscape. And the mutating effect of that fel energy that's flying around makes iron ore mutate into Fel-Iron, which in turn can be crafted. And when it's crafted, it typically is called Fel-Steel. And I described it as having a dull green colour, and basically it's very handy if you want to make evil line weapons. For those of you not in the know, or those of you who simply don't play Dungeons & Dragons that much and maybe not aware of the concept, in Dungeons & Dragons you have aligned weapons, good weapons, evil weapons, lawful weapons, chaotic weapons, and generally speaking, if you hit somebody of the opposite alignment to that, they take extra damage. And if someone of the opposite alignment holds the weapon, then they suffer from a temporary negative level until they drop it. And which I always like the idea of, and I translated that as being an excruciating, almost unbearable pain while holding the weapon, because there's something fundamentally wrong with it compared to your overall mindset. So there we go, that's Fel-Steel. I must admit, I didn't use that many of them. I didn't make up that many. I used all the ones in the 3.5 book, you know, adamantine, mithril, darkwood, you know, things like that. Darkwood's not really metal, but you know what I mean. All the special materials that were in the Dungeons & Dragons DMG, I used over the course of the campaign. I can't remember if there's any others. I don't think there were. I think it was just literally Fel-Steel. And in the end, because of its rather evil connotations, once they'd acquired enough of it to fill their quota and get paid for the job, they never touched the stuff again. So I never really got to explore that particular avenue. I may reintroduce it at some point in the future in another high level game, but for the time being, that is the end of that particular story. And once again, I do highly recommend plagiarism for any GM who is desperate for ideas. There's nothing wrong with taking an idea and tweaking it and adapting it, as long as it's not apparently obvious where the idea came from, or at least it's recognisable as an homage as opposed to an outright copy. So thanks for your time, guys.